Welcome. Our golf course design class will take a final trip across the pond to talk about how golf got to the United States. This is actually a really interesting picture. Charles Blair Macdonald, who we're going to talk about quite extensively in the course, and many of his really rich friends playing in one of the first U.S. amateur golf tournaments. So, we know golf today, big business. We got Tiger Woods, the Pinehurst history of Payne Stewart, Nancy Lopez, and the LPGA. So and Arnold Palmer. So there's big money in golf. We still compete with the Europeans in the Ryder Cup. We don't often win, but our players definitely have the prettiest wives. So how did we get here? Our forefathers traveled from Britain. There was a long history of Scottish fishermen playing the game, hence St. Andrews, which we've already talked about. Many of these gentlemen sailed to the United States, and actually pre-Civil War, there's record of a club in South Carolina in 1786. And also a 1776 club in New York. Neither of these clubs still exist, but there is some argument that that's where golf started in the United States. But we know golf did not continue after the Civil War. The Civil War, an incredible historic event for the United States, lasted from 1861 to 1865, devastated the population. So to think about golf under such circumstances would be ridiculous. So here's a little bit of some Civil War history. Men were conscripted, picked up, bought to fight in this war that was between the states. The result of this war was devastation. You can see from these photos after the Battle of Gettysburg, many dead. So you can imagine, and some of these battles were fought very close to here. Sherman's march at the end of the war actually ended in Raleigh. Battlesburg was a very big battle that they talked about in the summer, and you can imagine, any of you that have, anyway, just the devastation of this war. So after the war, there's really no clear club that starts golf in the United States, but there's 5 that are quite important, and they all have some argument as to being the first club, and we're going to talk about these 5. St. Andrews, Newport, Shinnecock, the Golf Club at Brookline, and the Chicago Golf Club. The first of these was started by John Reed. He is considered by many to be the father of American golf. He was a Scotsman who settled in Yonkers. He got his friend when he went over to St. Andrews to get some clubs. They brought them back. They started the St. Andrews Club in 1888. It lasted to 1963. It had between 3 and 6 holes on land just outside the butcher shop, and these guys were called the Apple Tree Gang. When Bob Lockhart went over to Scotland, he brought 24 guttas and 6 clubs. And there's record of this from Old Tom's shop. And there's a picture of John Reed in his red coat. They were called the Apple Tree Gang because they sat underneath this apple tree. This was their clubhouse, you can see, or the 19th hole. Alcohol was a big part of their festivities, and they played golf on this 3 to 6 hole course. So not a great golf course design, but definitely the first record of an actual club of gentlemen, amateurs playing the game. The next really rich guy we're going to talk about is Theodore Havemeyer. And interestingly, golf didn't only come from Scotland. Golf came to the United States by way of France. Havemeyer was a really rich sugar baron who had enough money to spend his winters in France, the south of France, in Po, and he picked up the game there from a young golf pro named Willie Dunn, who we're going to talk about a little bit. He was in Newport, pretty cold place in Rhode Island, famous club that actually had the women's U.S. Open a couple years back. But another interesting thing is George Bush, our current president's mother. Her great grandfather was Theodore Havemeyer. So the Bushes come from a line of incredibly rich people who started golf. And if any of you know of the Havemeyer Trophy, that's the trophy that was awarded at Pinehurst No. 2 just last week. The trophy for the top amateur golfer was donated by Theodore Havemeyer. So Newport is going to play a really strong role in the formation of the United States Golf Association and also the selection of the first U.S. amateur and the controversy surrounding that selection. The third of the 5 clubs we're going to talk about is Shinnecock Hills. And Duncan Crider, he was a Scotsman who convinced his friend Willie Dunn, who ties in with the other club in Newport, to start things on Long Island. It's the first club that was ever incorporated. It was incorporated in 1891. So this is Shinnecock's claim to fame, that they were the first club in the United States incorporated. Dunn designs it. That is no longer in existence. The club was redesigned by Flynn and Toomey and then by William Mitchell. So this is another one of the early clubs, and they actually on a great links site, which we're going to talk about quite a bit because it butts up to my favorite golf course, the National Golf Links of America. Very famous clubhouse. This is the family club out on Long Island. Beautiful vistas looking out onto a treeless links type site. In the distance here, you can see the windmill. This is a windmill that is actually on a different golf course. That's the National Golf Links of America. But you can see Shinnecock, very wide open, the site of 2 or 3 U.S. Opens, and great site for golf. Some more pictures of Shinnecock, and that rough is, although treeless, it is very treacherous and a difficult golf course. Willie Dunn, the first architect of Shinnecock, was from Musselburgh, so he played golf with Willie Park Jr., who we talked about last time. He was a professional golfer, and he was also a greenkeeper, so he came over here to take care of the golf course, and in the process of taking care of the golf course, he designed the golf course. He took 12 holes and expanded them to 18, and again, it was a links golf course. There's Willie in his older days. At this time, the Haskell ball was coming into existence, so Shinnecock was made longer by Dunn for the steel-shafted, longer-hitting golf balls. Dunn rubbed elbows with some of the famous people of the time. Teddy Roosevelt, the Vanderbilts, and Buffalo Bill all played golf at Shinnecock. Again, being in close proximity to New York, these people were able to go out there for their retreats. And Willie spread the word back to Scotland that, hey, there's a golf boom going on in the United States. You guys need to come over here. You can make money on that. And here's another, one of the Redan golf holes at Shinnecock. And we will talk about the Redan golf holes when we talk about National Golf Links of America. The fourth club is the Country Club of Brookline, and Brookline becomes very important, particularly in a movie that you're gonna have the opportunity to watch. It's called The Greatest Game Ever, about Francis Ouimet, and golf supremacy coming to the United States. Ouimet was a caddy who actually beat some of the best golfers in Britain to win the U.S. Open. Curtis, the lady from Poe, was his daughters. They formed the Country Club of Brookline, and they were horse people. So the horses and golf go back a long way, just like they do in Pinehurst. And there's Curtis, and if you know, the Curtis Cup is the cup that the women play for that's similar to the Ryder Cup. And there's Francis Ouimet, and in 1913 he won the U.S. Open, beating Harry Vardon and some other Europeans and Americans who were here. And that's an excellent story, and you'll watch the movie and we'll have questions on that next time. There's just a picture of one of the holes at Brookline, and there's a great segment in the movie that you should watch in the special features where Francis Ouimet is an old man, and he's walked out by a commentator onto the golf course, and he talks about how he played these holes. So pay particular attention to the 17th hole and how important it is in the setup of the tournament. So our final club we're going to talk about in this section is the Chicago Golf Club, which was designed by C.B. McDonald. McDonald went to St. Andrews for school. In 1892, he built a 7-hole course in Lake Forest, Illinois, and then in 1895 moved the club to a new site. And his claim, or their Chicago's club's claim to fame, is that they had the first 18-hole golf club, or premier. And Charles Blair McDonald, probably without a doubt, is responsible for forming the USGA. The way that it was formed is quite interesting, and the USGA doesn't trumpet it from the highest mountain. But in 1894, Newport Golf Club decided to have an amateur 36-hole stroke play tournament. Charles Blair McDonald thought he was going to win this. He didn't. When W.G. Lawrence won, he came out strongly and said, hey, this is not a true national championship. A true national championship has to be played match play. Real gentlemen play match play. Like the British amateur, we need to play match play. And they went along with him. So he was a forceful guy, and he did that. So later at the St. Andrews Club in New York, again, one of the first 5 clubs, a match was played. Unfortunately, McDonald didn't win that match. In the first match at Newport, McDonald was way ahead, and he hit his ball up against a brick wall. And this is why he took an 8 on the hole and allowed Lawrence to pass him. So, and then in the other match at St. Andrews, he was beaten by Stoddard, and he said, hey, this cannot be a true tournament because it's not sanctioned by a governing body. We need a governing body to run this. So they went along with it, and then on February 8th of the next year, 1895, the 5 clubs that we've discussed started the Golf Association of the United States. And these are the first 5 clubs, basically, in the Golf Association of the United States becomes the United States Golf Association. So the next year, in 1895, CB wins a match play championship held in Newport, Rhode Island, to become the first ever winner of the U.S. Amateur. So, interesting story. The first 5 clubs, St. Andrews, Newport, Shinnecock, the Country Club of Brookline, and Chicago, have a match that I showed you the picture of in the first slides, and McDonald finally wins. So he goes down in history as the winner of the first U.S. Amateur, a very bombastic, loud gentleman who will have a complete lecture on his design of the National Golf Links of America. So as golf begins to grow, there gets to be quite a bit of demand for this. The Industrial Revolution is happening. People have more time. They can play. There's a gentleman, George Wright, who owns a sports store. He wants to sell clubs So he starts designing some primitive early golf courses, geometric styles with cross bunkers. So here's a picture of an early California design. You can only imagine how fun or difficult or whatever this would be, but this is one not very natural looking. This is not the way we design golf holes now, but it's still very playable. And even in Pinehurst, some vocabulary for you, chocolate drops. And chocolate drops are basically stone piles. Oftentimes on these sites that were converted to golf courses, they used to be pasture that had stone walls to keep the animals in their pens, and these stone walls were piled up, soil was put on top, and grass was put on top of them to make a hazard. So this is quite the field of chocolate drops on the Pinehurst courses before Donald Ross ever got here. Another vocabulary word you need to know for the exams, dragon's teeth. And dragon's teeth are unmowed grass in bunkers. So when you have love grass in a bunker, it creates a unique hazard, and this is something that was done at that time. Some of the hazards from the old days, a hedge. So even Longleaf here in Pinehurst has a hedge that you have to hit over. So that's a hazard that was a part of the game, but a stone wall was rejected by Charles Blair McDonald as an unfair hazard. But here is a hazard that, deemed fair or unfair, is at the golf club at Longleaf. So these gentlemen that Willie Dunn sent for, the British pro greenskeepers, came over. They built the courses. They refined it over time. Some of the courses took a very short time to lay out, and then they were worked on through constant tinkering by the golf course superintendent or the greenkeeper. Fences were removed, stones cleared, and turf management was not at its finest. There were not great putting greens. Oftentimes the greens and fairways were mowed at the same height with horse-drawn reel mowers or something primitive like that. W.H. Burt Way came with his brother and settled in Ohio. They did some famous clubs up in the Northeast, Detroit Golf Club, Firestone, and then they got J.D. Rockefeller, who built golf courses all over the country during the Industrial Revolution, and some of these Ernest and Jack Dunn came over and worked for him and then built some more courses. So the legacy of bringing these Scots over, these gentlemen precede Donald Ross, but this is the same mode, but to a greater success that Donald Ross came to the United States. Willie Campbell, born in Musselburgh, also like Willie Dunn, lost the first unofficial U.S. Open to Willie Dunn, was the first pro at the Country Club of Brookline, and did some of the first basic designs in the U.S., and you can read about him in the text. But one of the important guys I want you to know about is Tom Bendelow, and he had a nickname, 18 Stakes on a Sunday afternoon. So he was legendarily for designing a golf course really, really fast. It makes sense if you think about his job. He worked for, he was a Scotsman who came over here, and he was a writer, but he was hired by A.G. Spalding, who at the time was selling golf balls and golf clubs like mad. So the more golf courses there were, the more stuff he would sell. So he designed a lot of golf courses. One that still exists to this day is the public course in New York City, Van Cortlandt Park. There's a picture of Van Cortlandt Park. So you can see not the height of turf management, but still often played, lots of rounds, and it gets the job done for recreation right in New York City. Here's a picture of the Spalding ads, the Spalding golf ball, one of the first Haskell golf balls sold widely throughout the United States. It was kind of unfair to say 18 Stakes on a Sunday afternoon, because Tom Tom never designed on Sunday. He was a devout religious person, but he did design golf courses very cheaply. For $25, he would do that. And later he lectured at the University of Illinois of golf course design. So he did push forward the art or the craft of designing golf courses. And this is a time when freeway golf design or simple cross bunkers was what was necessary. The United States golfers were not greatly skilled players. The idea was to get them out there, get them playing, and the high refined golf clubs for the rich that are going to hone their game would come from that and come from the original 5 clubs. But public golf and getting the game going was what Tom Ventola really, his service to the game. And just another example of the hazards of the early game. This is Pinehurst, again pre-Donald Ross, and you can see that some of the fences were just left. So perhaps this is a picture even before the chocolate drops, and the chocolate drops might have been made from all these stones. So you guys that work out at Pinehurst, be glad you weren't charged with building chocolate drops from a stone wall. I know that would be probably pretty hard work in June, July, and August in Pinehurst. So anyway, that's the history of the first 5 clubs. Remember, you do need to listen to one more lecture that's going to talk a little bit more about Francis Ouimet, and then next time we meet, we will have a movie on the greatest game ever played.